You're listening to KOUG Radio. Listen live online at KOUGradio.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Earworm Episode 3.
Bees, bees, bees.
You're not going to give us one more?
No, it's 3. That's the title. It's bees, bees, bees.
Okay, well, you just looked like you were raring up for another one, then I
kind of felt it. I got like a big surge of energy there.
You had to quiet it down.
I didn't really know how to continue it, though.
Yep, but today we're going to be talking about all things bees, all things wasp.
Yeah.
Which is slightly less topical now that we're going into the winter season, which is when they are not around.
That's definitely true. So bees just hide out in their hives during the winter.
This is an interesting segue to the first topic. That's what honey is for food in the winter.
Oh, storage?
Because there ain't no flowers in the bees. So how do bees eat, first of all? They got little mouths.
They got little mouths,
They do.
cute little pincers.
Yeah, mandibles,
Yeah.
chelicerae even, or chelicerae if you want to be fancy about it.
I feel like that sounds more like a food item than it does
Chelicerae.
like a body part, yeah.
But they have their little proboscis that they stick into the flower. They drink the nectar, and they actually have a separate stomach for nectar.
I thought that they kind of just like rubbed around, like they got inside the flower and then they wiggled around and it got all over them, and that's why you see the big white.
That they get the pollen from doing that, not the nectar. The pollen is kind of a side effect of everything else happening.
So what do they use pollen for?
They make what they call bee bread, and it feeds the baby bees.
You see, I thought, okay, maybe that makes more sense, because when I was doing research for this episode, one of the things that I wanted to know was about queen bees and how more queen bees are kind of grown, because they're different from the rest of them. And it was they're chosen when they're
anointed.
They're anointed, yeah. But they have an exclusive diet of royal jelly. Royal jelly, yeah. I feel like somewhere I saw royal honey, and then I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Royal jelly sounds better than royal honey.
It is.
But yeah, it's these bees, this select few are chosen to give just royal jelly until they grow up and they become a queen bee. Apparently it's something within the jelly. It like activates their reproductive system and makes them able to have more bee babies.
Bee babies. But I mean, it's weird how many different sources of food they have, because you think about it and you're like, bees eat honey, and it's like, no they don't, but yes they do in the winter, but no they don't in the summer. They eat nectar, but they also eat pollen because they feed it to the babies. Babies.
That's true. Do you think that okay, this is kind of a weird topic, but do you think that if you could force bees to evolve just by what they eat? So let's say that, winter's coming up and you don't allow these bees to get enough to kind of make it through the winter, but then you leave out like a slice of bread. And so the rest of the bees, they run out of food and eventually they die. But there's the few, the chosen, that go to that slice of bread and they eat it. And then they pass on the bread desire gene.
I mean,
you just keep repeating that process.
Well, if you think about wasps eat like anything. Bees can only eat they eat a lot, but they eat a select few. Wasps, they be at your chicken,
That's
your
right,
soda.
You told me. They're carnivores.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that always threw me off, because I knew that wasps and bees were different, but I just figured that it was because wasps are more aggressive,
There are a lot of differences.
All right, let's hear.
We can get into those.
I want to know.
Wasps. Well, most people think about it in the way that bees can only sting you once and wasps can sting you multiple times. That's true for most cases. There are a couple different species of honeybee that don't lose their stingers, so they can sting you multiple times.
Are any of them local?
We do have a few. I don't know which exact ones, but I know when I was in the field, one of my supervisors was like, yeah, some of the bees can sting you multiple times, but most are European honeybees. And I was like, okay. But that's most of the time the distinction. Also, wasps eat meat and anything that they can get their little jowls around.
You don't think they eat like a vegetable though, do you?
They could.
Yeah, but they're not going to choose that.
They can try. If it smells good enough to them. Vegetable is like flower. Bee love flower.
Bee love flower. Bee eat vegetable.
Bee is vegetable.
Oh my god.
But a lot of people, and then people are like, well, if bees and wasps are different, what's a hornet? What's a yellow jacket? Those are just types of wasps.
Yeah.
I guess maybe not a lot of people have that confusion then.
I don't know. I guess it's one of those things where it's brought up and you don't really have a second thought on it. You're just like, oh yeah, I knew that, even though you never put any real effort into thinking about it. You know, it's just a fact that you accepted and it's just been a part of your life. So it's not really been questioned. It's not the validity of it hasn't changed at all, even though there's been nothing.
It's just now conscious in your brain.
Yeah, exactly. It's I don't know. I was actually having a conversation about this the other night, not about bees and wasps and the distinction, but you know how when you do something or when someone tells you they're going to do something, you're like, oh, I just have a bad feeling about that. It's an instinct. And this person that I was talking, I don't want to name them, but this person that I was talking with they kept asking me, why do you think that? Like, why are you thinking this way? And I could BS some answer.
BS?
Yeah, I could BS some answer. But I just couldn't think of anything that made super, like, a lot of sense, essentially. To something that we both agree on.
Right.
And so I kept saying, like, this is just how I'm thinking. It's just, like, my instinct about it. Like, I just think that this is this type of situation. And they were like, but why? But why? I was like, I don't know. It's just how I'm thinking about it. And I couldn't, you know, give any hard evidence to why I was thinking that. And so my argument, I guess, was eventually ruled out because of that reason, which is a fair reason. But at the same time, when it's just a social situation, you're like, I don't got a very good feeling about this.
Yeah. I forever kind of mourn the fact that once we stop being toddlers, we kind of lose that why. Because toddlers all the time are just like, why this, why that? They ask the whys that you don't think of. Like, they're like, why does it get cold outside? It's like, I don't think about that. I just think that it does get cold outside. You just know that it does get cold outside because of the time of year. Yeah. Although, have you noticed, I feel like lately it's been getting colder later than it normally does. It's called global warming, my friend.
Well, but at the same time, it's
on a small scale.
Yeah, it's like the time between seasons are changing. There's no longer that shift, that gradual, you know, warm to cool or cool to warm. It's just like, oh, it's a nice 80 degrees out, and then all of a sudden it's like, bam, it's 50 degrees or it's 30 degrees, and then a few months it's like, whoa, when did it become 90 degrees again? You know, the water hasn't caught up. I can't go swimming. It's
bad
still
for
freezing.
The bees.
It's bad for the bees.
They don't know what's going on,
and because of that, bees are dying.
Yeah, they are.
Kind of sad. I didn't mean to sound that morbid.
Well, it is true that bees are in decline. Native bees especially, which, you know, we always prefer the native to the invasive. The honeybee that everyone talks about is a European honeybee. It's not native. But they still help pollinate. Just because they're invasive doesn't mean that, like, they don't help in some way. They still do, but it's still, you know, that's the way it is. But
that's true. I always thought that when there's that, you know, classic image of a bee. Yeah. I always thought that was our honeybee, the European honeybee. But it's something called the teddy bear honeybee.
Is it really?
It is. It is the most, it's because it looks like a teddy bear. It's just so adorable. If you pull it up, it's what you think of when you hear bee.
Like that like the rotund little. Yeah. Oh, he's cute. See, I'm also getting like Build-A-Bear, like bees.
That's exactly what it is. That's why it's called the teddy bear.
Oh, it's cute.
Honeybee. It's adorable. It's just a small little fluffy guy who goes around doing all the normal bee things.
Wow, that's really wonderful. They're being removed from Melbourne, Australia because they're invasive.
But they look good while doing it.
How could you look at that little guy and be like, you don't belong here?
You think that someone has a hidden agenda?
A vendetta.
Yeah, a vendetta against these bees.
I think so.
Do you have any like bee stories? Like this guy in Australia, apparently he hates the teddy bear honeybee.
Yeah, he really does. No,
when he was
I
a child, they like picked up his dog and flew away with it or something.
A giant swarm of teddy bear bees came out.
How many bees do you think it would take?
It was a very small dog.
How many bees do you think it would take to pick up a person?
Like all the bees in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Bees can't. Well, bees. So when they eat the nectar. They have their little nectar pouch that they store it in, but that pouch can internally open up into their stomach so they can eat a little bit, keep on flying, get the nectar.
God, that's so weird to think, because you ever think about how people don't have any of those types of things?
Well, it's like if you had a sandwich and you were like, I'm just going to save it for later, and just stuffed it in your cheek and then decided, no, I'm a little hungry, and just ate a little bit.
Okay, that makes a little more sense than what I was thinking. I was like, oh, it'd be weird if we had, you're wearing a sweatshirt and you put a sandwich in your sweatshirt pocket,
and then just
you're
decide,
and then you're like, I'm gonna eat it, and then it just absorbs through you. Yeah,
I mean, that's closer to what the bees have.
I know, but it's just such a weird, like, we don't have anything like that, so it's so hard
Humans
to imagine.
are lame. They evolved only for big brains and nothing else.
Yeah, we kind of
got the short end of the evolutionary stick there.
Bit. We don't even have fur anymore. We can't. You put us naked outside,
we're cold.
We're gonna die.
We're
naked.
I do think that's very interesting how like people started wearing clothes not because we were naked, but because it's cold outside.
Well, I mean,
we lost fur over time, so we were like, I need something to put on that.
Well, yeah. Do you think it was? Which one do you think came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you think we started wearing clothes before we lost hair, or we lost hair before we started wearing clothes?
I think we lost hair before we started wearing clothes.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you think caused us to lose the hair? Because obviously that's like the best thing, right?
That's an interesting. I don't think wearing clothes. There's hairy people that wear clothes these days.
Yeah, but it's like
you've seen a dad's back.
It's I was gonna say it's like a back,
carpet.
or some people have like really hairy
chest.
I always find that so funny when I'm out
really?
at like a bar or something and someone's wearing like a deep V cut.
Oh yeah.
And there's just that little puff right at the top.
It's like, that's gross. Like those are, I don't want to sound too crass, but those are pubes, man.
Ew.
Just out and about on your chest. Like that's gross.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch that. It's like people are grossed out by armpit hair, but not facial hair. It's like.
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess if you're having like an intimate relation, you're not like stroking the person's armpit hair.
You aren't?
You like touch.
Is that something that people don't do?
I guess you're very unique.
I would like to say that I don't do that.
I don't believe you. Not after that. You sounded very confident.
No.
You can't. It's canon now. I'm sorry. But anyway, no. But I feel like I have this thought every now and then of if being hairy and thus having a natural insulator was the beneficial thing. How did we lose that? Because obviously, it's mutation and selection, and that's kind of what dictates what direction evolution takes. But I feel like the people who stay warm naturally without having to go to an extra step to stay warm, those people would be better off.
I think that it might have been, this is just a hypothesis, but it could have been for visual breeding selection. So like, how the birds have crazy colors, that doesn't benefit them in a survival way, but it benefits them in a fitness way because they have more offspring because they're prettier.
It's like, yeah, but the thing is,
the girl monkeys saw the boy monkeys with no hair and said, okay.
And then the boy monkey saw the girl monkey with a lot of hair and was like, oh God.
Ew.
No, but we weren't hunting things that had those. I mean, I guess leopards had some pretty like extravagant looking for like pelts.
Yeah.
But it's just a bunch of brown fur that imagine this super hairy monkey stacking all these different pelts on himself. He's like, look at me, look at what I have done.
Witness me.
Look at my kills. And all the female monkeys are like, whoa, that guy knows how to hunt. Like, I was gonna say, but he knows how to hunt.
Yeah, he does.
So we want him.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question.
I wish I did. Do you? Yeah. I'm hoping.
Were you going to say, do you think Dr. Turner knows? I think he does.
I would love to get more educated people on the show.
We can absolutely do that.
We can try. That's
because us two idiots are like, we don't. I know some things. It's mostly reptiles.
I feel like all my information, most of the things that I do in my life are instinct based, and then
absolutely.
And then as soon as someone's like, "Why did you do that?" I'm like, "Why did I do that?"
I don't know.
I did it because I knew that was the right thing, and
right.
I didn't give it any thought. Like I feel like I'm the same way driving, but. Anyway, back to the story. You said you had a story on bees.
So I have a story on bees, and then it led to a question that I'm going to answer.
Okay.
So this summer, I've mentioned it before. I'm going to mention it again because it's my magnum opus. I was part of the Oregon Silver Spot adaptive management and mark recapture team that was up on Mount Hebo. And it's a 3-year research grant, researching the butterfly, seeing why is he endangered? Let's find out. So I was part of that team, and we were up on some distinct meadows on Mount Hebo. There were 7 total meadows, and meadow 7 was the farthest away. First of all, it's 3,000 feet elevation, so we're driving a rinkety van up like 3,000 feet every morning, and then it's hot up there, and there's only dirt roads, and the reception is bad, so you're out there. So we only had one research vehicle as well, so we'd have to drop everyone off at separate meadows. On that particular day, I happened to be dropped off at the farthest meadow from everything else. Like, it is a measurable great distance far from all the other meadows.
Do you know how many miles?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, is it so far that, like, if you were dropped off and they
I
told you,
might have a map on me still, but...
Oh, really? They're like, the van broke down. You got to walk back. Like, how long would it take you?
Oh, to get from Meadow 7 to Meadow 1?
Yeah.
Maybe an hour?
Oh, that's not...
I don't know.
Like, walking?
I'm also really bad at, like, distance. Oh, this map doesn't have a key. Oh, no, it does have a key. Okay.
Okay, most people walk anywhere from 2 to 3 miles per hour.
I don't. Let me see here. So Meadow 7 to Meadow 1 it's about 2 miles.
2 miles from Meadow 1 to Meadow 7.
Right.
You realize you could...
But it weaves. It's not... I was measuring it from a straight shot.
Oh.
The path weaves, so it's considerable,
It
you
could
know?
be more than that. It could be a lot more than that.
Well,
Okay.
I don't walk a mile every day, so it was a lot for me. But I was out in the back, but I wasn't only just in Meadow 7, I was in the very back of Meadow 7. So I was quite literally the farthest of far I could possibly be while on this project.
2 whole miles.
And I was standing under a tree, was not sitting, holding my net, writing my notes. And I felt this like, on my elbow. And there was like a tons of thatch ants up there, and it felt
What
at
is
first
thatch ants?
they're big ants. They have big red heads. They bite for no reason, and it hurts really bad.
Are they not just red ants?
No.
It's like a whole different species.
Google thatch ant.
Thatch
You'll see.
ants.
I have such a hatred. They would bite our arms and our legs while we were marking the butterflies. So we'd literally be like... We'd be holding this endangered butterfly very carefully, marking it as careful as we can, as fast as we can. And then this ant would come and really hard bite your arm, and you have to try not to throw the butterfly. It was really, because have you ever been holding your phone and like you hit your elbow on the wall and like you like drop your phone?
No, I haven't.
Really?
No.
That's like a thing.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just because of my background. I don't drop things like that very often.
That's fair. But anyways, we had tons of thatch ants. I thought a thatch ant had somehow crawled up my entire body and bit my elbow. But then it started hurting a lot worse than a thatch ant. And I was like, what is that? So I looked and I saw the stinger sticking out of my arm, and it didn't really click at first. So I like took the stinger out with my hands. Don't do that.
Yeah, I've heard that's a bad idea.
Don't do that. But I did, and I picked it up and I looked at it and I went, oh crap. I was like...
Because you didn't know if you were allergic to bees or not.
I had never, this is a good prerequisite. I had never been stung by a bee before.
Yeah.
So, and I have a topical allergy to beeswax and carnauba wax. So I was like already kind of like,
you're like, this is it. Bury me in field 7.
I really wasn't sure. So, and it was like 95 degrees that day or something.
Yeah.
Full pants, full backpack on, running, like 3,000 feet elevation. It was not good. No shade because we're in the middle of a meadow.
Oh, so you're thinking like, oh, if I am allergic to the sting,
yeah,
like my heart is pumping so hard, it's gonna get through me so
like
quickly.
I'm already gonna yeah. I'm gonna die very quickly. So as soon as I realized that it was a bee sting, I flicked the stinger off my finger because I was like, that's gross. There were guts on it. We'll talk about why that happens. And then
Poor bee.
I literally, as fast as I possibly could, I ran from the end of the meadow to the road. And I got down to the road. I texted my teammates. I said, "Hey guys, I just got stung by a bee. I took the stinger out and everything was fine, but I don't know if I'm allergic. So I'm going to sit down on the road and see if I die." And they said, "That's not good."
They just said, "Oh, okay, see you in a bit," and they give you
Kind
the
of.
thumbs up emoji.
Well, not really. They said, like, "Do you want someone to come and check on you, like to leave their meadow and drive the?" Because I didn't have the van. We had one vehicle. The van was all the way like on the other side. Was like the whole 2 miles of walking. So I was like, I don't know.
Oh, you don't, because it's like that thing, you don't want to make a big deal,
Yeah.
especially if it's nothing. 'Cause
Right.
You just feel dumb, you know.
But I was
bad.
anxious about it, so I was like, my mouth was getting dry, my hands were getting shaky. I was like scared.
Oh, but it's just you thinking about
Yeah,
it. So you're...
and I was like, am I allergic and I'm reacting and my throat feels tight because I'm gonna die, or is it because I'm nervous? So long story short, I sat down on the ground for like an hour, sipped my little water. I was fine. I was not allergic, but it did sting me in a very inconvenient spot to be like whipping a net around,
Yeah.
because now my elbow's all swollen and it hurts, and I'm trying to net these butterflies and it's like, but that's my story. Is yeah, I really
can't get it.
I thought for a hot minute I was gonna die.
That's fair. I mean, especially if you've never been stung before.
Right.
I feel like naturally I'm pretty resilient as far as allergies. I mean, I have seasonal allergies,
Right.
you know. I guess I have the occasional sneeze during springtime, but no heart allergies or anything to worry about. And so that's never really been a concern to me, especially when I was younger. I think this is like me and my brothers and friends that I had, you know, we're always outside running around. And one of the times that we went camping, it was, you know, in terms of my dad's side of the family, I'm one of the younger kids. And so I'm always chasing, I think I was like 6 at the time. And
Yeah.
I'm following around my cousins and my
Right.
brothers who are all older than me. And we get to this campsite and all the parents are unpacking everything and setting things up. And, you know, I guess at this time they didn't need our help. So we ran
Right.
off. And all the cousins and my brothers, they're all running ahead of me and they find this trail in the woods. And
Oh,
I'm like, oh, I'm going to follow. You know, it's one of those things I didn't give any thought. You're
Yeah.
a kid, you just go. And so I'm running behind them, having a grand time. And it's this pretty narrow path through the forest. And eventually they get so far ahead of me. I mean, the trail's winding and whatnot.
Yeah.
That I can't see them anymore, but I know which direction they take.
Right.
Just based off of what I can hear and where I saw them go. And so it gets to this pretty narrow point, and I managed to catch up to one of my brothers, and I'm just running behind him, and I'm maybe 10 feet behind him. And then he steps and takes off again. And I'm like, oh, I got to catch all the way back up. But what I didn't realize is what he stepped on and pushed off with was this huge underground beehive.
no way.
And all these bees shot up, and I ran straight through it. I think I got stung at least 10 to 20 times.
Oh,
like all over my face
no.
and upper body. I came like bursting out of the tree screaming. My mom is freaking out, but I guess, you know, something happened because I don't have any more memories of that trip, but I don't think it's because I passed out or anything. I think it's just because it got dealt with and I moved on. But yeah, I don't think I'm allergic to bees, or I think that would have definitely killed me.
Yeah.
I do actually have a story. There was so in the time that I was in the military, I served in the honor guard, which is funeral services, and it's very, very professional. It was probably like one of the top moments of my career. But I had this friend who she went out and did services with me, and she was allergic to bees.
Oh.
And it was in the middle of summer, and one of the places we're at, it has this huge fields around it, tons of flowers. And so she goes with me on this service, and she tells me, "Hey, you know I'm allergic to bees, right?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "There's a lot of bees out right now." And she takes an EpiPen out of her pocket.
Oh.
She's like, "If I go down, I need you to hit me with this EpiPen."
That's so scary.
And I'm like, you know that if we're in the middle of a service, like I can't move from my position, or you have to be ceremonious when you do
oh
everything.
no.
And so she's like, "Yeah, I guess that's true.
Just don't
she's
let
like,
me die."
She's like, "Just leave me and then come back after the ceremony." I'm like, how about if you get stung, I will like ceremoniously take it out of my pocket, turn, hit you with it,
That's
and then go back to what I
incredible.
was doing. And I talked with my team. We had this down. I was like, if I give this signal, like this very subtle signal, I'm about to step away. So, take
I
hold
can
of
save her
whatever's going
life.
on. Yeah. But I thankfully it didn't have to happen.
That's so
But
good.
I love making backup plans and stuff like that. It was so much fun. We had a good time joking around with the idea, and she was really chill about it. But it was a good time.
I don't know why that just made me think like if I'm not planning on it, but if I ever happen to join the military and like I go to a military funeral of some kind and you're there doing stuff, I would not be able to like look at you and not laugh.
Yeah.
It'd be so much like in between thoughtful words, you just like make a face at me.
Well, it's okay. So that's actually one of the things I loved about it, because you had to be so professional.
Right.
But the people you're working with, you work with them every day for hours on end, so you have to get really good at it.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
You goof them.
you're always challenging each other, and you don't do this at a service, but when you're training, you train, practice how you play. So we're always trying to make each other laugh, so that
that's
way if
so
something
hard.
happens, because I'm not going to go into detail, but during some services things happen and
Kids start screaming.
not even that, it's like things that shouldn't be funny
People-
are so funny, and things that are funny happen, and you have
Yeah.
to maintain your composure.
Old person coughs and farts. It's
Yeah.
like you can't laugh.
But no, I remember there was one time where so I was on a particular team, and I had worked with this team for a long time, and one of the guys on our team got deployed, and so we had to replace him. Another good friend of ours, he stepped in. He was on par with that guy or better, and so we had no problem with it. We practiced with him a lot, but it was like one of our first ceremonies that we did with him. And the positions, just how it happened to line up, you have to, there's a lot of passing the flag
Right.
back and forth. And on one of these times, I was folding it with him, and you're looking down to make sure you're doing it right, and
Right.
you're doing it slow and very precisely. And then there's the part where you hand it off to the other person, and he's handing it off to me. And we kind of get back to where we're at, and I look up because you want to make sure to
Yeah.
do that composed appearance of
Right.
professional. And I look up, and he's a lot shorter than me.
Yeah.
And I just looked up and see it, and his eyes are like quivering at me, and I don't know what's going on with him, but it looks like he was about to either like burst into tears or just start laughing hysterically. And so I'm staring at him with this look in my eyes now. And I mean, it went off without a hitch. If anything, it added
That is
to the
so
rest of the
funny.
ceremony, because we looked so
Welling
passionate,
up with tears.
I mean, you're not even allowed to do that, but it was
Wow.
in that, to the audience, they wouldn't notice anything.
Yeah.
Or to the family, they wouldn't notice anything. But to us, it was like, we talked about it afterwards, and it was a really funny moment, because I was like, why did you look at me like that?
Incredible.
And he was like, I didn't mean to. It's just you looked up so
sorry.
quickly and our eyes met, and it was just
It was a beautiful
what are you
moment.
talking about?
Oh man.
B?
Sorry. Bee allergies are
Yeah.
very like more common than you'd think.
Really?
I mean, like compared to other things.
Like what? Like you got to give me lactose intolerant or something.
Well, hold on 1 second. 1 second. I gotta Google to make sure my numbers are right. Because I can't be spreading misinformation on this World Wide Web.
I just looked it up. It said about 3% of the population.
That's a lot of people. So what's the population? 8 billion?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I don't know. I'm not buying it.
I don't know. I feel like that's.
I guess. Well, okay. So you take that number and you spread it across the world.
Mhm.
Then it's like the density of that.
Right.
It's probably not. It's. I don't even know how to describe. It's probably 1 out of every 8,000 people you meet.
That's
something like
still.
that.
I mean, I feel like that's. I mean, you always see it in movies too. It's always My Girl, or whatever that movie was where he dies because spoiler alert, he dies because he gets stung by a bee.
What
And then
movie is
she's
that?
like, I don't remember. I think it's called My Girl. And
That's got to be
I
such
think
a
it's Macaulay
disappointing end to a
Culkin.
movie.
And he gets stung by a bunch of bees and dies. And then she's like, yeah, it is Macaulay Culkin. She dies, he dies, and then she's like, comes to the ceremony. They're children. They're little
Yeah.
kids. And she's like, why are his glasses off? He can't see without. It's really sad. People cry. but it's a little funny.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was gonna be like fully grown adults
No.
having like a cherished moment in the woods, and then
One
he's
bee.
like, I would never stop loving you, and then he falls to the ground, and she looks and there's a bee on his leg. She's like, no,
And then she takes a bee and stings herself, Romeo and Juliet, but she's not allergic, so she doesn't die. She just gets stung.
and she's like, why did I do that?
Oh, so what happens exactly when a bee stings you? This is something that I wanted to research. There was actually, I stumbled across a letter that a 9-year-old girl wrote to someone, and then that someone contacted a professor at WSU Pullman to talk, who was a bee researcher, to talk about it. His name is Brandon Hopkins, and I just thought it was cool that it correlated to WSU.
Yeah, the WSU.
So the venom from the so bees have venom. It is injected through the stinger. That makes sense. But they have the little barbs in the stinger, and those are
so
hollow.
it doesn't come out.
Right. So it stays in, and then they're hollow, so it can inject the venom like a snake fang.
You just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, because that's how I relate it to things. But the body treats the venom as like any other foreign pathogen. So like when you're sick, your immune system kicks in, it tries to fix everything that's going on. Same thing with venom enters your body. Your body's like, I'm gonna try to fix this as best I can.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just like other things, like if you get sick enough or blah blah blah, your immune system can raise. So this researcher was saying, like, he's been working with bees all his life, and at first he would get stung and it was like it would take him out for a day, you know. And now he gets stung and they're like mosquito bites. So your body can develop immunity to bee stings.
I always thought it was the opposite. I was always under the impression that the more you get stung, the higher likelihood that you would develop this allergy.
No.
Really?
You can gain an immunity to, well, immunity as a loose term, like not completely 100% immune.
Yeah.
But you can get less intense reactions from it.
Okay.
Which is very interesting.
You know, I wonder if that's so. I mean, I didn't really dig into this too deeply, but when I was doing research for the episode, I saw that bees were trying to be used in a clinical sense, in a clinical setting for cancer research.
In what way?
In a few different ways, and one of them actually relates to the venom that they inject when they sting you, and it was. I don't have a lot of the numbers here, but it was essentially saying that if you mix the toxin or is it toxin?
It's venom.
Venom. Yeah, the venom. It starts with an M. That's produced.
Mitotoxin?
No, like the name.
Oh,
of the venom. But
I don't know.
I don't either. That's fine. But anyway, when it's mixed with some types of chemotherapy, it can be used to, or the theory behind it is that it can produce a more effective cancer fighting drug.
Oh.
And then another one, this is actually really interesting. There is, I don't know what her title is, but there's a lady named Susanna Soares that claims she can train bees to detect cancer.
So, I don't know if I believe her.
Because bees have a really strong sense of smell, especially with different biomarkers.
Pheromones, right.
Exactly. And so they can, her claims was saying that essentially these bees, if you breathe on them or in their vicinity or something, she can train them to detect, to smell these types of like small traces of cancer and catch it really early on. So it could be like an early warning sign.
See, I don't doubt that they can. I think absolutely because of their sense of smell, bees can detect cancer, but I don't think there's any possible way that you can train a bee. I don't think that that's possible. They don't have the mental capacity for that.
I think train is a very loose term.
I think
it's more of keep in one place, and if they do something, that's when you know.
They knew. See, look, the way he's flying right now. It's just he knows.
He did a little cancer dance. Yeah. I know it.
See, I think that they can sense it, but the fact that we could interpret it from what they do, I don't know if they would act any different from smelling it. I think that they can. I don't think that they can tell us.
No.
I mean, maybe she's right.
I think I would love to think that she's right. I definitely have a more favorable like view on natural remedies to things.
Oh yeah,
So whenever I hear stuff like that, I'm like, ooh,
it's
that's
very
kinda,
interesting.
That's kind of interesting. It'd be kind of cool.
I also think
Can you
there's
imagine
just
going to the doctor's office though, and you're like, oh, I'm here for my, I think I have cancer. Or,
Right.
I'm here for a checkup or something, and they bring out this huge glass
Box of
jar of bees, and they're like, all right, put your
Pull it
mouth
out.
around it and breathe, and we'll look at what the bees do.
I think there are better ways to go about that in current science. Not throwing a jar of bees at someone you think might have cancer.
Yeah, I can see that. That'd be so funny though.
It would.
Oh man, I want to go to the bee doctor. That's who I want to go.
Oh
see,
yeah.
Beekeepers
Beekeepers are so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has seen those bee removal videos on TikTok and on YouTube where they go into someone's house and the person's like, there's bees, can you move them? I don't want to kill them, but like, can you move them? And the person will like take one plank of wood off of the house and it's just like
billion
a fat
bees.
bee nest and it's like dripping honey. And then they just go in there with their bare hands and pull out scoops of bees and pull out the comb. It's like, what is going on, dude?
I love those videos. Because you have a bee problem,
Right.
So you call a beekeeper
Yep.
to remove the problem. You expect them to show up with like the
full
little
suit,
smoke can,
yeah.
the full suit, like you said, and then they just come in and it's just some like
Scooping.
it's just some guy, and you, what are you doing here?
I'm the bee guy.
I'm the bee guy. I'm here to remove the bees. No, where's your equipment? He holds up his hands. He's like, I got these two bad boys.
He does, these two guns right here are what I need.
Yeah, and then just starts going back and forth with fistfuls of bee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
A lot of the time they will smoke the bees to calm them down so they can just pick them up. And the reason they like pick them up with their hands and not gloves is because that causes less harm to the bees. Like, because when you have gloves on, you can't feel as well. So you don't want to like pick up something fragile because you can't tell if you're squishing it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are like, I just like the bees. I like to feel them on my hands. I'm like, that's gross. You're getting a little bit too nasty now.
You're getting a little too into it.
Right.
But
But
take a step back from that.
a lot of the
Put on some
times-
gloves. That's disturbing.
Put on some gloves, pervert. But they will smoke the bees before going in and picking them up. They still can get stung though. And a lot of beekeepers, when they do stuff like that, the removals, is they do still get stung a lot. They're just super chill about it. And I'm like,
It's like the mosquito
never.
bite you were talking about. They don't even notice it anymore.
Right. But I could never imagine.
So I've heard that when they do stuff like that, it's because their comfort or their relax
That's
kind of demeanor, it helps relax.
It does. Absolutely. That's like a real thing. Because the pheromone, your body, you as a human being produce pheromones.
Yeah.
And bees, so they don't smell like with their nose. Their antenna is what senses pheromones and also electromagnetic signals. So when that's how they communicate with each other. So I learned that when you smoke a bee, what you're doing is the smoke is interfering with their antenna and the way that they pick up electromagnetic and pheromone signals. So they can't tell other bees like, I got picked up, I'm freaking out, because the smoke blocks that signal and it returns to normal within like 15 minutes of smoking them.
You got a window
Right.
of calm bee.
Could you imagine like you pick up one bee as your timer runs out and then all of a sudden all the other bees are like, hey, wait a minute.
They'll just swarm you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be
But
that would be something.
I found that very interesting because you see them smoke the bees all the time to like calm them down. And you're like, yeah, they smoke them to calm them down. But I never thought about like, why is that the reason?
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. You see, I always thought bees dance to communicate. I know that they do that. Actually, this is a really interesting thing. How they kind of tell each other where there's a good flower over here, like, hey, you want to go over there.
Don't they point their butt?
It's a mix. So it's really interesting. So one of the things they do is they use the sun or whatever point of light they have, and if there's no sun, there's no light, then they use gravity. But for this situation, let's just say it's the sun. So they use the angle of the sun as a direction. So imagine like the light source is like the north, and then they go on an intercept with the line from the sun to the hive.
Right.
That's the direction. And then how far it is they do a little wiggle.
Right.
and then they come back. And so the wiggle distance and the time that they do that for, that's the distance. So if it's like 1 second of wiggling before they turn back, it's like 1 mile or like 1 kilometer.
That's so cool.
And then there was another reason.
Do you think American bees do it by mile and British bees do it by kilometer?
Oh, they have to. If you
So
have like one bee travel
all
over
the
here.
European bees in America are like, wait a minute. I'm very confused.
We haven't got there yet. What's going on?
Right, what's all this then?
What's
You
all
said
this
there was
then?
one flower a kilometer away. The American bee's just like, I said it was a mile away.
I said it was a mile. You're wrong. Oh man. Yeah, and so this is what else I was getting at. So they go up once, the 1 second, and they turn around and they say they break off to the left. I don't think it matters too much if they go left or right first. But they break off to the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the left.
Yep.
They come back to their original starting point.
Right.
They do their wiggle again, but imagine this time it's a little bit wider than the first wiggle. So now
So they're giving them a margin.
it's like a V, yeah, and then they come back on the opposite side. That area between the two endpoints of their wiggle, that's like the margin of error. So it's
of
like
where the flower
this is the direct, like the general direction that it's in. It's roughly this distance.
That's so neat.
Go.
Go. That is very interesting.
I know. I think bees are so cool.
Yeah.
They're so smart.
They do communicate. I think they communicate very physical. I think the directions that they give each other is movement based when they're dancing.
Yeah.
Everything that they do to dance is like, I'm telling you to move. But pheromones can be
A lot of different things.
There's
yeah.
a queen, or there's a person who's picking me up with their bare hands. I don't like it. Go sting them.
He's grabbing me.
Just stuff like that.
Oh man.
That's just they also do a little dance when they know that there is a queen in a direction.
Oh, like a I don't want to say it, but like a virgin queen.
No. Like their queen that got moved.
Oh yeah, because that's totally the thing that beekeepers use.
Yeah.
They move like just the queen
It's
to
called
a
a
new
queen
hive.
cage.
Yeah, and
They
then-
literally lock her up.
It looks like a little hair clip.
A hair clip.
That's what it looks like.
It does, actually.
Yeah.
But they put her in there, and then all the other bees are like, wait a minute, where's our lady?
Where'd she go?
And-
And then
yeah.
they all move over.
It's really cool though, because some of them, a big chunk of them will start moving, but you'll also see them start moving and then stop and point their butt towards the queen and vibrate their wings.
Oh.
And then like they'll do that and they'll eventually form like a whole line. Like one will start walking and then stop and do it, and one will go farther than that one and stop and do it, to give like perfect directions of like, this is where y'all need to go.
Oh, it's so funny to think about. Can you imagine if humans did something like that? You know,
Can I get
sibling gets
directions
back,
to the Costco, please?
Everyone just
oh
starts
yeah, no
holding hands.
problem. They're wiggling their butts towards the Costco.
Oh man, that'd be great. No, if we're talking about the bee living situation, I don't think anyone has it better than the drones.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The drones, they are birthed, they hatch in like roughly a month. I think it's a little under a month, and then they basically just eat until they find a queen to mate with,
And then die.
and then they die.
That's a pretty good life. That's salmon.
But the
salmon
thing is,
vibes.
the thing is, if you don't do that, if you don't get a queen,
Oof.
you just get kicked out.
Yeah.
And then you die,
Yeah.
and then you're replaced.
But if you do have a queen, that's a pretty good.
Then you
That's
get
a pretty good
breed
life.
before you die.
You
Yeah,
breed, you eat, you die.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a pretty good
That's
living.
pretty good living.
It is interesting how
Oh,
many
the life of a
different
drone.
how many different jobs there are for bees, because there's bees that mate with the queen, there's bees that take care of the babies.
Well, no, it's
there's-
just one bee that mates with the queen.
so low chances.
Yeah,
but
very low chances.
high
But
reward.
You got to imagine though that those 10 to 20 bees that get selected to be the next queens, when they're sent out, essentially what happens is they're sent out, all these drones get a whiff of it,
Oh yeah.
and then they start chasing them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they're just trying to get in there and breed with the queen. They breed mid-air, by the way. I don't
That's
know if you know that.
incredible.
It's
Most
like,
insects will breed midair.
yeah, they're joining the Mile High Club, that's for sure.
Yeah, they are.
But I think it's kind of neat that they do that. Not obviously the air breeding thing is pretty cool, but
Can you imagine the bee? You said the Mile High Club. It made me think, what if the drone, like goes to the queen and then does his whole triangulation dance, but up, and he's like, hey, baby, let me take you somewhere nice. and points his little booty in the air and is like, we're going up.
We're going up. That's why I want to meet you.
Oh,
Man, one thing that's actually really cool though about like the bee living as well. Another thing is what happens when the hive gets too crowded.
yes, I have always been curious about that.
Yeah, so they basically just go congregate somewhere else.
They just say, all right, y'all.
It's like, yeah, it's literally
The whole colony or parts of it?
the whole, I think it's the
Oh.
whole colony. They'll leave because it's not big enough to support
Oh.
them. So like the queen will go somewhere, and what usually happens is it's a secure place. You know, it's out of the rain, it's kind of out of the direct area of danger. And a lot of the times it's just on a random tree branch. And I remember this because when I was growing up, my next door neighbor, he didn't have a lot of land. You know, it's maybe just your typical square footage for a property, maybe like 7,000 square feet. But he had this garage and he kept bees in the garage. And every year, it was like clockwork. Every year around the same time, around the beginning of spring, all these bees would leave and they would go to these trees that are on the road that enter to that was our cul-de-sac. And they would swarm around one branch.
Yeah.
And it would be this huge, like little fluff of bees.
See,
and then the whole neighborhood, like there'd be bees swarming everywhere too.
Oh.
And it was really cool because these bees aren't looking to sting.
Yeah,
anyone.
they're just chilling out.
They're just chilling,
looking for
and
somewhere to
so
be.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, they basically do that until they find a replacement or a better spot for their hive. Or unless someone gets them and like gets them to come back, you know, they go steal the queen again.
Yeah, stealing queens is like a thing.
Oh,
like
yeah. Everyone does it. It's the cool thing to do.
It is, but beekeepers, especially like removal people, when they go into these hives that are like massive, like several square feet of hive, there are specific cells. So one of the hexagons in the honeycomb, that's a cell. One cell that is filled with the particular it's filled with particular wax, and it's also the one that they fill with the royal jelly to make the queen. So it happens all in the larval
It's like
stage.
the good pantry.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
This isn't where we keep the.
You go to your rich
beans.
friend's house and they have like all the different cereals in their pantry, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's so, but they can have multiple queen cells per hive. And I don't exactly know why that is.
Maybe it's just like a more storage.
Contingency plan.
Contingency. If the queen dies, we have more royal jelly.
Yeah, because like the queens can mature at the same time and emerge at the same time. So a hive, I think, can have, depending on the size, multiple queens.
That's interesting. Well, I mean,
yeah,
there's the videos of people who, you know, abandon cars. They come back after a certain amount of time and the whole car has been turned into a hive.
yes, that is so interesting.
Yeah, I love that. Bees will just move in anywhere. And then they're productive too, you know. Man, why can't all situations like that, you know, they just find a place and you settle down and then you become productive. I guess that's kind of what it is when you move somewhere, or when people were, you know, colonizing. They're like, they go to a new spot, they're like, hey, this is pretty good.
Right.
And then they just kind of set up shop and start manufacturing and living and whatnot. You know, I'm kind of envious sometimes. I mean, without all the, you know, I mean, everyone would like it if they could go back to a point in time without the actual hardship of that time.
Right.
But I would love to see what it would be like to live in, you know, medieval times, or probably just medieval times, or like times of great exploration. Because I think that's why so many people are so curious about space, and you know, a lot of people want us to become a spacefaring species because they want us to get back to that exploration, you know.
Yeah.
We don't have anywhere really else.
I just hope that this time,
go.
like, we don't kill the native Martians and then colonize the planet.
Well, you know, if they try to put up a fight. Honestly, I think we'd get smoked by most.
Oh yeah,
I think both parties.
Spacefaring.
Yeah, because the different.
They take a little pin needle and like stick it in the spacesuit, and we flash freeze and die.
Well, not only that, but there's all the different types of diseases.
Yeah,
you know? That'd be like.
That's like smallpox 2.
I was just about, I didn't want to say it, but that's smallpox in space. That's what that is.
Yeah. I just did a little bit of reading while you were saying that. And so when a hive already has a queen and another queen is produced, 3 things happen. 4 things happen. So either they kill the old queen because
Okay.
she's old.
Yeah, it's a mutiny.
Right. The multiple queens will fight to the death.
God, I wish we did that with like presidents.
Real monarchs, presidents, like Queen Elizabeth fighting her daughter.
Oh my god. Well, no, then she'd get smoked, you know. Like,
That's
this
what
is
happens to
such
the
a
old
super-
queen. She's old.
Okay, that's apart from the bee conversation.
Oh.
I think that's something that really needs to be brought back is
Like
Like, people-
tournaments for glory.
no, but people who are in power should be like strong,
Yeah.
you know? I don't know. It's just when you have these like super I mean, it's
Old
like that
and
for,
frail people.
for the majority of leaders around the
Yeah.
world. It's like, you know, they're just kind of they're politicians. They
Yeah.
sit around all day and making rules and laws
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, shaking hands.
You gotta see a buff politician.
Yeah, when was the last like you go to the founding fathers? It's like those guys commanded.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham
Girl,
Lincoln.
he was jacked.
Teddy Roosevelt. That guy would like
Beefcake.
he would host boxing events
That's so cool,
in the White
dude.
House and participate.
Now they only host like
Dinner parties.
McDonald's dinner parties in the freaking White
Yeah,
House.
or they go golf.
Ugh, Not for me.
What happened to all the boxing?
I want our Democratic leaders to fight.
Wait, wasn't there a president that I'm pretty sure he killed like 8 people for dueling.
That's really cool.
Like he would just duel people.
People, dueling is something that we need to bring back. That's how Alexander Hamilton died.
Really?
He was, see, clearly you weren't a theater kid.
I don't know
Every theater kid who's ever watched
Is that like
Hamilton.
what all theater kids aspire to like do in their life? I wish to produce a great play and star in it, and then get shot in a duel.
No, Hamilton was the treasurer, and they made a play about him. They made a show. Have you never heard of Hamilton?
I have, but I don't know much about it.
It's just the story of Alexander Hamilton, and at the end he gets shot in a duel.
Okay, if say, actually you can legally duel some. No, okay,
Can you actually?
I don't think with guns, but you can have a legal fight with someone. And in Washington State, you just have to get a police officer to spectate. And
I got plans
kinda
for this weekend.
referee. What are we gonna duel?
We're gonna
What are we
duel.
gonna fight over? We have to have a point.
I don't know, like a pizza or something.
I was just thinking, like, what's your
Little
favorite pizza
Caesars,
topping?
like you know.
I don't know. What would be like a good reason if they brought
duel
it back?
someone?
They're like, everywhere in the U.S. you can now duel someone as long as both parties consent. You can duel them.
It's gonna be over romantic interests.
Really?
100%.
Yeah, but what
People are
happens
gonna
if
duel.
one party's
It's just like deer. They duel each. The boys duel each other for a girl, and the girl's like, I don't want either one of you.
I hear dueling. I think fencing or shooting. I couldn't imagine
Deer
two deer,
pointing
yeah.
each other.
Well, I mean, I know how they fight. But
Yeah.
it's just funny to think.
Have you
about.
seen the one of the deer or an elk walking around, and he has the tangled antlers and decapitated head of a different elk on his
yeah.
It's so cool.
Do you think he gets like tons of deer babes? From
Yeah,
that?
he
Or
does.
elk babes.
Yeah, he does.
They
Have you
see
seen
it,
the
they're like,
one elk?
Whoa, what happened to Jimmy? And they're like, Jimmy killed Tom.
Whoa.
Yeah.
There's one elk in some random province somewhere that like terrorizes the town because of how horny he is. I think his name is Mammoth.
Mammoth. How'd he get that name?
Well, I think I'd rather not say. So Mammoth Village is the name of the place.
Oh,
that
and they
he,
just named him after.
Yeah. So they
It's like
named him.
Punxsutawney.
It's just one elk that's like super aggressive and super like confrontational, and yeah, he terrorizes this town once a year during mating
He just
season.
refuses to leave.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm not. This is where all the babes are.
it's great.
Where is that? Is that in like Canada?
I think it's by Yellowstone.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of wildlife stuff that happens in Yellowstone that just doesn't get reported on just because it's so normal. Like to us, when we hear about things that happen in Florida, we're like, oh man, Florida's crazy.
Yeah.
But then I guarantee that there are weirder things that happen in Florida that just no one talks about because it's like
Oh,
the
it's in
usual.
California.
Oh.
Mammoth Village.
Okay. Well, that's a little different than what I was thinking. There goes my whole
There goes your whole
wild story
yeah.
theory. That's fine. I wasn't trying to make
Another
point.
time.
Another time.
But so I was talking about how bees will kill each other. So the queens will duel and fight to the death, or they'll swarm and like freak out. But also if they decide that they want to, they can physically section off the queen from another part of the hive so that the two queens won't fight. Because otherwise, they're like attacked. Like if they make eye contact, they will kill each other. It's like when you put
This is like normal rule.
It's like two male hamsters in a cage. They lock eyes, they'll kill each other.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that hamsters were that
Hamsters,
aggressive.
I have a whole thing about hamsters. Like
What, you just don't like them?
no. And they do not make very good pets.
You know what I don't understand? How hamsters survive in the wild.
Yeah, people say that about like guinea pigs and hedgehogs and stuff. It's like, what are you doing? How are you doing that?
How are you alive?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine going where? I think it's somewhere in South America that hedgehogs are, or not hedgehogs, guinea pigs, wild guinea pigs.
Mhm.
And because I have a friend who actually, where they grew up, there were wild guinea pigs.
Was it in Papua New Guinea?
I don't know. No, it was somewhere in South America. But no, she would tell me, she's like, "Have you ever had guinea pig?" And I'm like, "No."
Guinea pigs are cool. They
It's
are
like,
good pets.
I don't go to the pet store to, grocery shop.
I do.
And she's like, "They taste so good." I'm like, "I don't want to try a guinea pig." But I guess where she's from, they just, they see
Yeah.
them. What is that noise they like? They
Yeah,
just grab them. Yeah. They just
Yeah.
pick them up, throw them on the grill.
It's great. Speaking of food, so you know how I was talking about how they have like the nectar stomach and everything?
Yeah.
And they can eat from it. So
Yeah, the little sweatshirt pocket.
yeah. So first of all, they can carry almost their entire body weight of nectar in a day. They can drink as much nectar as like their body weight minus a couple grams or milligrams, I don't remember, and be fine and fly back.
I mean, yeah, I could do that with chocolate milk.
I think I could too with chocolate milk. Like if you said any other food, I would have been like, I don't know. But you said chocolate milk. I said, I'm on board.
I was going to say, I've definitely drank a gallon of chocolate milk in a day by myself.
Well, you're not a gallon.
No,
your
wow.
weight is not a gallon.
What a great observation.
I mean, like the bees are 50 grams or whatever,
Yeah.
and the honey is like 40, or the nectar is like 40 grams. That's like eating like, how much do you weigh?
I weigh like roughly 170.
So that's like, how much is...
A gallon of chocolate milk, the density of chocolate milk. I don't know.
That's so
a good
much.
question. That'd be a lot of chocolate milk.
Yeah, like you'd have to drink like almost 160 pounds of chocolate milk. I don't know how many pounds is in a gallon.
8.
But that's a lot of
That's a
chocolate
lot of
milk,
chocolate
girl.
milk.
I don't think you could.
Well, give it time.
Yeah.
That's the thing though. Milk expands your stomach.
Yeah, it does.
So can you imagine?
And chocolate does too.
Can you imagine if you try to like prepare for it? You're like, oh, and in a year from today, I'm going to try to drink my weight in chocolate milk. And so you spend the next year drinking
Pounding milk.
Yeah, to get used to it. You just get bigger, and so you have to drink more.
Oh no!
And so you're fighting yourself.
That's a tragedy.
It's a terrible cycle.
But they can carry almost their entire weight in nectar. And then in order to turn that into honey, they kiss it to each other. It's kind of sweet.
That's kind of sweet.
They like regurgitate it and
Ew,
into the other
that
one's
just took all the sweetness out of it.
They regurgitate it into the other one's mouth, and they do that because their bodies will absorb the moisture from it. So you know how like our large intestine absorbs moisture? It's essentially the same thing. Why are you laughing? What are you gonna say?
I don't know.
You look like you had something brewing in that brain of yours.
You like with someone, you're like, oh, I have something to give you, and you like, yeah, you kiss them and just throw up.
Well, that's like,
and then they're like, oh, thank you.
That's
and
like
they wipe their
birds. Birds, baby birds. That's like a thing.
Yeah.
Regurgitation is very normal in the animal world. The fact that humans think it's gross is fascinating.
I don't know. I always kind of like if I drink a lot, I love throwing up because I'm like, oh, I've heard that that's like a
That's a very bad thing.
well, well, no, because it's one of those things where it's like, yes, you feel better, but it's because you throw up. Like your body releases something to make you feel better when you throw up, and I think that's it. The actual.
Well, animals don't throw up because, a lot of animals do. But when we're talking about like regurgitation versus vomiting, like regurgitation is not because they feel bad.
Yeah.
Like cud chewing for cows. They just decide like, oh, well, gonna have a little more of that. Or like baby bird, like moms of baby birds, they're just
Yeah.
feeding each other the honey.
That's got to be one of my favorite things though, is when you're having a discussion with friends and like you're sharing like a drink or something, and you're like, here, let me mama bird it to you.
Ew, I've never done that. Oh, I have done that.
But it's so much fun to say. Like that.
I've done that.
Ew, I don't want to hear about who you did.